Hello, Miss Burgess Sweeney, Trinity College, Dean Alford, or someone using his name. There are FBI in their defendant capacities and leading up to that through their roles with defendant former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in a 2006 district court case. Leading up to that and since, and leading up to the World Trade Center attack and since, people intercities who were involved with natures of identity thefts with people I don't know the names of, pretending other, and people I only know the names of in context they can't be honest about, and they offensively pretended and pretend other into databases and spoken, and as roles with wire crimes, with families they answer the police for the phones for the Wethersfield police through time, and a whole bunch of people tied to them, fire departments, pilots, everyone's extended family members, uses of neighbors, uses of corners of the streets. So there's a Joshua Julian. These are also people, and a Joshua Stryker, who are further then and now connected with timed uses of predicate acts roles on campuses, intercities, and intra-cities, and uses of the identity thefts and frauds that were our roles recorded, hyper-recorded. I'll say hyper-recorded too because they've been fabricating audio and video, totally made up, and in some cases to replace what's actually recorded. And increasingly, that's more and more all lies used for all truths used for lies. They're fishing. In other words, for truths they could use for lies, for sequence shifts, to cover offensive evidence, to maintain criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and of precedents and of that which is simultaneously self-valued and means to pretend other. They have self-valued roles with that, blaming on other things, others and or on selves. The real cause is people came through schools, even the public schools and the private schools, they make coordinated uses of them. I don't know this Tim O'Brien and Andrew O'Brien. They set out to start this game. And with a house, and they brought up the corners of the street of the principal child abusers campus. Other principals and their family members' uses of them remotely. Their sense and sensibilities. All exceptions, exception nature, where I know them, in demonstration, same thing. Barely. And now they had the Highwoods leading up to that with how they used it. So they used Quinnipiac. I never went to Quinnipiac University. There's a Rick C.M. Faglione. I never saw him with a Fred Grisey in my life except for that one night. And with a Kevin Harris. His mother was involved and is involved with this, with the FBI and judges, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. There are people from Afghanistan, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with identity thefts and frauds, wire crimes, acts and methods on off the Wethersfield town offices. This is on off 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike and on off Trinity College as names involved with this. Now the interbranch have been forging and switching names, using their roles with cases, using their roles with other instances that are bringing people before them because they had roles with it through fact treatment, nature treatment, through names treatments, in collusion with what I caught them doing intra campuses, not even connected ones, connected for them. Originally and still, we know this, we can discern this many ways. It recorded from off campuses, there were influences that were on-off campuses making people blame other things and or others and or selves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like slavery. They measure and maintain a breaching method does distinctly from our own. When people bring up, they say, oh, George Washington owned slaves. George Washington and our founding parents had to hide their roles contrary. They told us to defend the Constitution unabridged. And they had to hide their actual roles with the Constitutional Convention. We have all that separated and self-valued, separated being and having been separated. Those words forced, those natures of law treatments, entertained that can't be entertained in ourselves, but measured and maintained. And then what's that going to be? Manifest, so you have witch trials. How come the witch trials never brought up what's simultaneous? Well, that's what education is obligated to teach, is what is simultaneous. And what is hyper simultaneous is with that. And there are scientific needs to discern this. For example, a criminal insidiousness nature legalized or what? It was criminally legalized. But in other words, they're going to make positive and negative treatments. They're going to use truth for lies. They're going to put truths between lies. They're going to simultaneously. Everyone's going to be styles of logic that increasingly can't afford to simultaneously what is actually simultaneously recorded. They increasingly use criminally foreign influence evidence reception methods of preventing people from speaking about sequence shifts that came before acts. For example, where and how they have self-valued, where they have their locations, like where there are clubs and where people might meet other people, where they have to hide lie progressions. So I don't know Tom Perone. He made confessions about his sister, made an exception when I was a kid, 2 times, and his sister once. And background, who knows? I mean, I know there's more than that, but they're involved with sequence shifts and with the corners of Highcrest Street and their uses of my name with their identity thefts and frauds roles as database roles. These are also people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed identity thefts and frauds roles with others too, like an Abate family associated all along Route 3 with them and with mayors criminally involved with corners of streets near him and their families. I don't even know their names. So this is where and how they use neighbors. They have an Ian as one of the people involved with the FBI with further recorded conscious uses of juxtaposed natures of child abuses and of elderly abuses and of each age distinctly, that originally and still our voices of the law couldn't defend themselves and us at the same time. So there's a Joshua Stryker who's involved on off the state judicial branch offices, also with Enzo Fienza and people with that are involved on off WFSB and on off Fox Connecticut News and on off WTNH locations involved, like with the corner of Connecticut news organizations have roles with wire crimes with people at the corner of Church Street in Old Weathersfield, Church Street and Main Street in Old Weathersfield, and other houses on that street associated with a Heather Hansen and with teachers of hers that she recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, having been involved by others too, involved with her child abuses. That was relevant to what they call politics. Is way worse than politics, where Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College also had and has roles with identity thefts and frauds, intercity, times, roles with falsified police reports, mail crimes, wire crimes of juxtaposed natures, and for the effects of where they stack people, where they stack names of people and their family members and everyone they talk to, needing to make allegations about people. Oh, that person's crazy. Oh, we know about them. That's what the police are told to by their hierarchies, criminally foreign influence. So there are people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also a Dr. Shub confessed, recorded to me and others. There are people associated with the Hartford courts. And other military people also record, and their girlfriends and stuff with Hartford courts, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They're involved with predicate acts on and off those locations and or wrongdoing, and they're involved with predicate acts and or wrongdoing and slash or actually on Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College leading up to a 2006 district court case, which has names involved with the officers I recording themselves, criminally foreign influence, and then pretending other. As the people also, there are a whole bunch of people with the name Scalora that Central Connecticut State University and Wethersfield police recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with falsified police reports with them, wire crimes, crimes with guns with them, and roles with untimely deaths, and people with logistics associated with the confessions of Robert Rodriguez, and people associated with, they said a whole bunch of people recorded, confessed, demonstrated through time of a whole bunch with Mike Roberts. I don't know Mike Roberts. I barely know him. They tried to make exceptions in a less than handful of contexts, maybe about a handful. But so that's also roles with, these are also people that used the spots near the cafeteria, involved with sequence shifts. And with this method where they have the Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, deans of various colleges that were involved with confessions simultaneously to strangers. I was a stranger. All exception nature and demonstration the same thing, because these are overt criminal enterprises, plural, and private ones that timed natures of identity thefts and frauds. Since I was a kid, people were attaching me to fake. Look, there are connections between people that were made for them. So what is actually recorded shows how remotely they have the kids and the adults of each age of fact-sheet nature, including interbranch. They have them individually grouped in together, needing to pretend they have integrity, and incapable of doing that without being a victim predator, where they have illusions, where we have hundreds of nations, more than we could treat. There more than there are minutes in an hour. And so, such that they're using time, what is extensive, to get over what is in replace of what is simple. And they're using that in replace of what is complicated too, because what is extensive is still simple. Where, like, for example, American history is about how our founders wanted the Constitution unabridged, and they did not want slavery, and they wanted how they had to entertain what can't be entertained in the Constitution defended, but was and is anyway. It's not by accident. So for example, this Joshua Stryker is involved since I was a kid. He's not even in my grade. He's involved with Eric Oliveri and Craig Oliveri. I never had a conversation with Craig Oliveri, Eric Oliveri in my life. And they're involved with identity thefts and frauds. They made all these confessions and demonstrations, the roles with bombs and things like that, on one day. Then at night, had like what wasn't even a gathering. And whatever I said, like sometimes I say things a little bit skewed on Facebook, because you can't record the police, but they recorded themselves, and they've been preventing me writing since I was a kid. It's part of the method /S they're involved with. So they have Mendez police, and they have people with the Smith family, recorded a whole bunch of people involved at shopping centers, and with the identities of companies like where we eat food, we go to buy food, but it's through different companies having been there. It's involved with the policing of the stores, involved with identity thefts and frauds of a method. So you know how slavery, how torture is in addition to slavery, and identity thefts and frauds are in addition to that. They're all distinct. And there's a difference between making positive, that's also positive unto itself, and making positive out of negative. The only thing that can make positive out of negative is what make positive only out of itself, or exceptions and exception nature are demonstration. They're demonstrated. In other words, nature causes negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures and demonstration of slavery. See, but those negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures were employed by a human fact treatment nature breaching method, a predicate acts delivery system method, if you will. So, things that are inseparable from scientific logic capable of using passions and emotions where they are necessary. See, we have people preventing free speech to be in context where it's calm, where it can only be calm to reveal the words of peace, and where it could only be loud or violent to reveal the course of peace. Because originally and still, witch trials, what's that? Violence. Why is it never brought up with, even if they made it up, especially differentially, it shows actually recorded remote uses of criminally foreign influence manifest branches of government. All exceptions and exception nature tied to them, kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, final act, progressive lies. So Wethersfield mayors are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, being and having been guided by lawyers. There's a Robert Chevalier, who is a lawyer of a Robert Luskin in one of the legal cases. They've been using, also with the news, lying about the outcome in other cases, attaching people of each age and their family members to fake words with themselves and with others outside of courts and outside of interbranch locations, as collusion with those locations sickly, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, also on and off campuses, further with the principal child abusers campus. There are also kids and women recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's an officer named O'Neill with the Wethersfield Police Department, and there's ones with the name Joe DeMoro, who are involved with sexual and medical drugs crimes with kids, and there's a woman named O'Neill. They have their kids involved with this, and with the Leahy family with their kids. Generations of their families involved attaching little kids and their family members to fake conversations with themselves, fake ties to themselves. And God help the people that of each age that really had communications with these people. And so these are people involved, personally, criminally involved with various natures of courts, also involved with them criminally, leading up to the World Trade Center attack, as their involvements with way worse, tied to people that colluded with self-valued uses of illusions associated with post-dated documents having been presented to the Ninth Circuit panel of judges right before the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan. And that was in a civil pro se litigant, pro se, racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization suit regarding pension theft stuff. But see, the police in their defendant capacities where they can't use the right to lie. And the professional capacities where they can't have roles with all kinds of natures of uses too, of juxtaposed natures of distinct child abuses and self-valued roles of the victim predators. So we have parents that have their kids involved with this. As police forms, they have private, they're in public schools though. So they're playing games where and how they have the locations interbranch already being and having been used remotely. It's where the identity. So this is slavery, where there's name switching and forging on Facebook. They've been pretending passions and emotions to the courts because of what I caught them doing at locations. Because those locations were also brought up in confessions by people when I was in, the youngest grades. There's connections between it. There are timed and word timed identity thefts and frauds, remote uses of CNN, with natures of juxtaposed natures of elections crimes they just have more to do with the uses of all locations, the uses of the databases, the uses of exceptions and of exception nature. So we have still recorded forced, criminally foreign influenced uses of exceptions and exception nature when they review their logic. So we have offensively the phrase the environment. See, this is not a sophistication, it's honest offensively. Where there were and are the only positions of integrity. So no, the three branches were still victim predators. They were still entrenched, had been sustained. People to individually grouped and together, enslaved. Our founding parents. George Washington would come be livid if he could tell no lies. That means that he wanted the Constitution unabridged. That's what you say. Well, how come he had slave owner? He was a slave owner then. Because there was that breaching method employed. And it was to sense, if someone said anything, they're going to have an argument before and they're going to be using premises treatments, names treatments. And all that argument and stuff like that is in layers, criminal, against the law. They'll hurt them. They'll hurt their family members. Everyone else will shut the heck up more. That was sustained. Now, nature's going to demonstrate that. That was wanted. Because this built and maintained sophistication that it knew effectively it could maintain, blaming other things, others, and or ourselves for the real cause of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures. That's why the houses in the north, they have the slavery here. Right next to Trinity College. They're in Hartford, Connecticut. They have slavery here. Sickly distinctly from the South. That is left out. The simultaneous is being left out. Its means as the hyper simultaneous is left out. That which really is going to cause positive value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures, not insidious treatments of positive and negative, criminal. They're juxtaposed with kept needing to hide in the same sequence shifts, fine active progressive lives, not just with the overt criminal enterprises, plural, ones that seem to have nothing to do with each other. No, everyone goes to the same schools. They have the private schools. So I don't know this Fred Grisey either, but he's involved with identity thefts and frauds too, recorded. As one of the private school kids, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with drugs and medicines crimes with locations next to the schools, including the patients of doctors, where they have setups where everyone goes to the same spot. If they force you for mental evaluation, everyone goes to the same spot. Those people are kept needing to hide the same at the street. At that level, same people that run the prisons, they go to the same way they went to their campuses. They're involved with identity theft, frauds, intercity